Welcome to Sports Talk with RJ. I'm Steve Risser along here with Justin and Afro. We got a busy show today. We got the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We got the national championship game in college football. But we gotta start with the Giants, and it is a great day to be a Giants fan. Probably the best day since they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 46, which is a long, long time ago, almost 15 years ago. But it is a great day to be a Giants fan because last night they hired John Harbaugh to be their head coach. I mean, you just got to give him credit. You got to give him credit for making this hire. You got to give credit to Chris Mara for driving driving to Baltimore on Sunday to meet with them. He came to the facility yesterday. He was there for almost 12 hours. Left the facility, went back on a plane to Baltimore. But pretty much right after that, he pretty much agreed to become the head coach of the Giants. And this is a great hire. It's a great hire for this organization. An organization that's been terrible for over a decade. But Harbaugh still agreed to come here, thanks to the recruiting pitch by Tom Coughlin, Eli Manning recruiting him to come here. You look at what he's inheriting here. He's inheriting a franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. You got skill guys like Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, good guys on the defensive line like Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. Back seven needs a lot of work. The roster still needs work, but this is a great day to be a Giants fan because this is an A+ hire getting John Harbaugh here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an adult in the room now with the Giants, and that hasn't been the case now for almost 15 years now. The Giants definitely needed that. I think it's a pretty solid hire for him. I think the $20 million is a lot to pay a head coach he's won a Super Bowl, but he's blown a lot of leads over the years. But look, he's the best candidate that's out there right now. So I think it's a really good hire for the Giants. And yeah, this is a coach that you're not going to fire after 2 years. Like they've been like probably only worst team with hiring more coaches last decade is like the Raiders. So the Giants are going to have somebody here for the next couple of years. So I think it's a true hire to kind of get them going here when there is definitely some talent, especially in the offensive side of the ball and especially in the defensive line.
Yeah, and the question really is what is the biggest reason why Harbaugh came here? And I think that the obvious one is Jackson Dart. Because you looked at his two other options that he was two other teams he was really interested in were the Titans and the Falcons. The Falcons were a team with 4 All-Pros, better roster than the Giants, won twice as many games as the Giants. But the issue with the Falcons is do they have? I mean, Michael Penix is coming off another injury. Do they have a franchise quarterback? I think he thought the Giants he bought into Jackson Dart more than he bought into Michael Penix. And then if you compare the Titans to the Giants, yeah, the Titans have Cam Ward, but I think the Giants have the better roster. So the roster and the ownership. And the other issue with the Titans is they don't keep coaches. That's the thing. They're very unstable as an organization. So ownership stability, the quarterback, and the roster being okay was, I think, the reason why John Harbaugh came here. But I think the biggest reason was Jackson Dart.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think it's Jackson Dart and the potential he's kind of shown this year. With the Falcons, they definitely have talent. It's an easier division in the NFC East, but Michael Penix watching right now, and guys torn 3 ACLs since college, unfortunately. So you don't really know about his long-term health. So with Titans, Ward showed some flashes at the end of the year. With the Giants and with Jackson Dart and the young talent that you do have offensively is really good as well. So I definitely think a big part of the reason why he chose New York over the other stops or other places interested in him was because of Jackson Dart.
Oh, absolutely. I think Dart was a big reason why. Funny, the guy Daboll wanted is the reason why the next coach came in. Because Daboll was a huge advocate for Jackson Dart. The Giants traded up to get him, and that's a big reason why John Harbaugh came here. It was a big reason why he ended up coming here. The one thing one thing with the Giants is that what a lot of the fan base didn't want is them to keep Joe Schoen, but they did. They did retain Joe Schoen. But I think, but the question really is for us is, was it surprising that he's going to work with Joe Schoen now? Now we don't know what role. It's gonna be interesting to see the press conference, see who's going to have final say in personnel. But as of right now, he is working with Joe Schoen and working for Joe Schoen. He's the GM. How surprised are you with that? For me, I'm not. I mean, I think he's more coming here because of the ownership and Jackson Dart. Yes, Shane is still the GM, but there's a chance that Joe Shane could be fired after the season if John Harbaugh doesn't like what he's doing because he only has one more year left on his deal. So I'm a little surprised he picks the Giants. We wanted to work with Joe Shane, but I'm not completely surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either because look, he's somebody that doesn't seem like he wants all the power, but I bet he's definitely gonna have a voice on roster construction, all that. But yeah, like, and he's somebody too he's making $20 million a year. So whoever the new GM is, if they do get a new GM after during next off season, you're not signing off on them. See,
Yeah, Frank said great job by the
Frank
Giants.
Thomas. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what Miami does. I think Miami should get Mike McCarthy. I think McCarthy should be their next coach, but I think it's going to be Jeff Hadley because of the relationship he has with their new GM who came from the Packers. But I think Mike McCarthy should be the Dolphins' next head coach. And the Dolphins were interested. We're interested, but the issue with the Dolphins is they really with Tua's concussion history, they really don't have right now. They're searching for a franchise quarterback. So that's why I don't think that it was, and they don't have as good of a roster as the Falcons. So that's why I don't think he was on top of Harbaugh's list. But for the Dolphins, I think Mike McCarthy should be their hire. They need a coach with experience. They got to stop hiring coordinators, just like the Giants did today. They hired a coach with experience. So yeah, it is a little bit surprising he's working for Joe Shane, but eventually, if John Harbaugh doesn't like Joe Shane, the Giants are going to move on from Joe Shane after this season.
Yeah, absolutely. All the money that they just spent on John Harbaugh, yeah, like a new GM's not gonna have the power to try to get rid of him. I would assume most GMs would like to, probably would want to kind of work with somebody like John Harbaugh, who's been in the league for a while too. So, yeah, I don't see it being that big of a problem. So yeah, I don't think that was a hang up pretty much at all for John Harbaugh that Joe Shane's sticking around for at least one more year.
No, I don't think it was. I think we'll see though. The press conference is going to be interesting to see what kind of involvement Shane's going to have with personnel. Well, how it's going to work. Is Harbaugh going to be the guy who has final say, or is it going to be Joe Shane? We're going to see. That's going to be very interesting. That's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens there. But looking at this Giants team, looking at the season they had, they were really 4-13, another really bad year. But the reason for optimism were Jackson Dart, Cam Scadab, who showed promise. We really didn't see Jackson Dart much with Malik Neighbors because the same game Dart started in his first game, Malik Neighbors tore his ACL, so he got hurt. They have talent on the defensive line, and they were in a lot of games last year. They were in a lot of games. I mean, they had 5 times they had 10-point leads. They held a 10-point lead in the game. 3 times they held a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of games. The Bronco game, the Bears game, the Lions game. So those teams all had winning records. Two of them are still playing right now. And then they had the Dallas game 1-2 in Dallas. They had a lead with 19 seconds to go. They had a 3-point lead with 19 seconds to go. Looking at the young talent on this team, the question really is can this team get to the playoffs next year? Can they be a playoff team? And now we'll answer this answer will probably change down the road when we keep talking about this team. I'm going to say here's my thing. I'd be happy if they're just in the hunt. They're playing meaningful football next year in December because there's still holes on this roster, especially in the back seven. The back seven needs a lot of work. There's parts of the offensive line that need work. If they lose Wandell to free agency, they're gonna need depth in the receiving core. So I'm gonna say at this point, I'm gonna say they'll be in the hunt. I think they'll be. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be in the hunt with John Harbaugh because he's that good of a coach. And let's be honest, with better coaching, this probably would have been, instead of a 4-win team, probably a 6 to 7-win team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a team that's going to be around in December in the hunt. I don't think they're going to end up getting in. Now, again, we'll see what they do this offseason signing and with free agency and the draft coming up. But yeah, I just, I also think too, my worry is with Dart. He looked good, but like, can he stay on the field for 17 games? We saw him go to the injury tent multiple times this year. Can he protect himself? Now, I bet, Harbaugh's worked with a quarterback that loves to scramble like Lamar Jackson, and I know he's been kind of banged up. He's got history too, being banged up quite a few times. But that's also a concern. You got a bunch of guys coming off of injuries too. So look, if they're healthy and you get the most out of everybody, maybe this team could sneak in, but I have to kind of see the rest of the offseason how that goes. But right now, I'd say they're probably a team in the hunt because, the coaching staff definitely got, there definitely be upgrades in the coaching staff because, as you mentioned, they blew a lot of games that they could have won this year.
Yeah, we'll see what the DC hire is. It looks like Todd Monken is going to be the offensive coordinator. He's going to come over with John Harbaugh from Baltimore to New York. And you talked about Jackson Dart. You talked about Jackson Dart and John Harbaugh's got to have a discussion with him about trying to protect himself because he's got to learn. He's got to be able to protect himself. If the Giants are going to have success, if they're going to ultimately be successful and get to where they want to get to, he's got to be able to protect himself. Jackson Dart's got to be able to protect himself. So that is really important. But yeah, I mean, I think listen, I would be happy if this team is in the hunt because the Eagles are going to be good next year. They've won 11 games the last 4 years. They've won 11 games or more. So the Eagles will be good. Dallas, we're going to see what happens in the draft. We'll see what Dallas does in the draft, how they use their draft picks, how they use their draft picks that they got from the Micah Parsons trade, how they utilize those, and what they do with George Pickens, which I'm pretty sure which they should give a long-term deal to. So we'll see what happens with George Pickens. And then with Washington, let's not forget they were in the conference championship game last year. Their defense, now they did regress, they did take a step back, but Terry McLaurin and Jane Daniels only played 3 games together, so the division is pretty competitive. But I do expect this team to be, in the hunt, be playing meaningful football because I think they're talented enough and they have the best coach in the division in John Harbaugh right
Yeah, right now I think they could kind of be competitive. But yeah, you mentioned Washington. Daniels healthy next year. We'll see if they we'll see how that defense get better. Dallas is probably going to win at least 8 games, probably. Like they don't ever really bottom out, and I don't expect them to next year. And yeah, we'll see what they do with those extra draft picks now. And yeah, the Eagles aren't really going anywhere. So yeah, it's a team. It's a Giants team that's going to be a really tough division. Can you start by beating the Cowboys? I know you won each week. Like a meaningful game against Dallas. Can you start
now.
to try to
Exactly. A meaningful game against the
build?
Cowboys. I mean, they
Yeah.
did win a meaningful game against the Eagles. I'll give them that last year. Jackson Dart played great in a meaningful game against the Eagles. But yeah, you got to start, winning meaningful games against teams in the division consistently. They lost twice to Washington last year. They got to start beating Washington again. They've lost 4 straight to Washington. Dallas, they won that last game, but Joe Milton played the second half. But so they got to start winning meaningful games in the division with Harbaugh, and I think they will. I think they'll be very, very competitive in the NFC East next year with John Harbaugh and Jackson Dart as their quarterback.
Yeah, they should, and be disappointed if they're not. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough division to try to climb out of the basement in. But yeah, with Harbaugh, it does help make that a possibility now. So then maybe bringing in, because it'd be tough to bring in a first-year head coach in this division. Where I know Dallas wasn't great last year, Washington's all banged up, but be kind of a tough kind of first job coming to New York with it coming in this division, trying to get back to top of it. It would be a very hard task.
Yeah, as a Giants fan, I was so tired of coordinators. Ben McAdoo. I know Shermer had experience, but he was terrible in Cleveland. Joe Judge. And I was their John Harbaugh. Back in 2020, that was their John Harbaugh to hire. Joe Judge. Remember that? We remember that. We were on the air talking about that. That was their John Harbaugh, and then Brian Daboll. I'm tired of the guessing games. The Giants needed a coach with experience and a coach that has experience and has had success. And this is exactly what they got in John Harbaugh. They couldn't have made a better hire. They really couldn't have made a better hire.
No, they couldn't have. He's the number 1 guy on the board, and somebody that probably a couple weeks ago didn't really think it was possible to get this job. So he ends up getting it, and the Giants finally got somebody that they needed. So for the Giants, the home run hire.
Oh, Frank says patiently waiting to talk Canes.
Oh, the Canes.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that. This show is going to be more NFL, but the next show we'll be talking Canes for about 20, 30 minutes. So it'll be around 2:45. So definitely make sure you tune in for that, Frank. So we'll definitely be talking plenty of Canes today because they're playing in the national title game for the first time since 2021. So we'll be talking plenty of Canes.
2022, you mean?
2022. No, 2002. 2002. Yeah. So first time in over 20 years. So we'll definitely be talking Canes today. So around 2:45, that show we'll be talking a lot of Canes. So definitely make sure you tune in for that. But yeah, so just a great day to be a Giants fan. Great day to be a Giants fan. You got the head coach. You got looks like you got the quarterback too. The GM We'll see what happens with Joe Shane. Should be interesting, but still, it's just if you were going like if you were comparing this to last year's offseason, at this point last year, the Giant fans were watching Saquon Barkley run the Eagles to the Super Bowl. They were bringing Shane and Dayball back. They didn't have a quarterback. The Giants are just in a much different spot. I mean, it's comparable to the Patriots. I mean, a little bit of a different situation from the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots last year had a bunch of cap. I think the big difference between the two is I think the Patriots had more cap space. But it's a similar where they both had quarterbacks and they both had had brought in really good coaches.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some similarities. Yeah, you think you got the quarterback spot figured out. Giants definitely have more talent on the roster than I think the Patriots did this time last year.
But the Patriots got more talent in free agency.
Yeah,
they did a great job getting Milton Williams, getting Robert Spillane, getting Morgan Moses. The Patriots did a really good job of getting talent in free agency, and Harold Landry too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They did, and so that's big. And yeah, you expect Giants. What's the Giants cap space? I know it's not
around
in
the middle of the league.
Okay, so you might have to maybe hit a couple draft picks, and the money you do spend hit it right. So yeah, it's very similar from the Patriots last year, where there's definitely more optimism now. I can even kind of the way you're talking, you have more optimism. I kind of did last year. I didn't think we'd be in this position already this year. I can't imagine your schedule would be as easy as the Patriots was last year or this year. I can't imagine.
It's not. They got to play the NFC West, so it won't be.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. But that's a lot tougher. So yeah, so it'll be a tough uphill climb for the Giants. But yeah, there's definitely optimism now in New York. There's definitely similarities from those two teams.
Yeah, there definitely is. There definitely is, and we'll get to the Patriots later in the show. But we went from the second most tenured head coach in the league, and that was John Harbaugh. He was with the Ravens for 18 years, to now to a guy who used to be the most tenured coach in the league, and that's Mike Tomlin, who was with the Steelers for 19 years. But on Monday, he resigned. Now, on Tuesday, after their loss on Monday night to the Texans, after they were eliminated from the playoffs and had another first round exit, another one and done for the Steelers, he resigned as head coach. And the question is how surprised were you that Mike Tomlin resigned? And for me, to me, I was surprised he resigned. I thought he might get fired, but I was surprised that he did. He went out on his own terms. I'm surprised. I thought he would say he would stay. I thought he might get fired, but maybe he got ahead of it. Maybe he thought they might. Now, Art Rooney said yesterday that they were planning on doing another year with him. He said that right after he resigned, but who knows if that was true. So maybe he got ahead of it. He didn't want to be like Belichick or Harbaugh and get fired from their teams for being there that long. Maybe just wanted to get ahead of it and leave on his own terms. So yeah. So I was a little surprised that Tomlin did resign.
Yeah. Over the weekend, you started kind of hearing that there was maybe some interest in the broadcasting, and then I kind of figured, well, maybe there is some truth to it. And then I think even Monday night, Buck and Aikman brought it up that he's talking about, Tom was talking about maybe going to broadcasting. So on Tuesday, I wasn't that surprised anymore because it kind of felt like if they're bringing up on the broadcast, I saw a couple articles on it over the weekend. Kind of figured maybe it's a real possibility here. So to me, I wasn't that surprised just after hearing the noise, but and keeping with the AFC North too, pretty crazy that Zach Taylor was the only AFC North coach
and he's by far the worst coach. He's by far the worst coach of the four. He's by far. It's not even close. He's clearly better than him. He's by far the worst coach, and he still keeps his job, which is crazy. That's why Joe Burrow's not going to be winning anything anytime soon.
No, unfortunately, and that just shows how Cincinnati, how cheap they are at the ownership level. So, yeah, so that was so to me, I just wasn't end up being that shocked because it kind of felt like the writing was on the wall, and I think it is he's a good coach, really good coach. I think it's another one like Baltimore where I think it's time to have a new voice in that room. Even though I think it's mostly on the GM, Amir Khan.
Yeah, Khan is not a great GM. Khan was a very average roster that they had this year. Yeah. And they've had for a while now.
Yeah, probably going back close to a decade now? It's been, feels like?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of felt like, to me, they just do need a new voice, and I think Khan and they need to go find a quarterback. Like, you just can't. Same thing with the Colts. You just can't keep getting these 1-year guys and hope it hits. It doesn't. You're not going to get anywhere in the NFL without it. With it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it seems like they've been they need to rip the Band-Aid off. You're right. They need to rip the Band-Aid off and draft a quarterback because they've went through the Mason Rudolphs and Russell Wilson last year, and now Aaron Rodgers this year, who was above average, but he's not even close to the player he was in Green Bay. Seeing how immobile he was, and the Texans exposed that on Monday night.
Yeah, they absolutely did, and yeah, you could tell he can't move the way he did, and that's because he's 41 years old and he just blew out his Achilles 2 years ago. So yeah, it just doesn't pan out. And the problem with the Steelers is they're such a great organization that they're never going to bottom out. So you're gonna have a hard time finding your franchise quarterback in the mid-20s. It doesn't really happen. I know maybe your Giants have figured it out, but very rarely you find that quarterback in the 20s. And
yeah, Kenny Pickett. They tried with Kenny Pickett, and that didn't work out.
Yeah. No, it didn't. So
even though I think they moved off him too quick. They moved off him too quick. It didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. And now without Dante Moore, this isn't a great class. Like I think Ty Simpson's going much higher now than I thought maybe the Steelers could get him in the mid-teens or 20s where they're drafting, but I don't think he's gonna be on the board that long. So maybe they go that Trinidad Chambliss. I don't think he's gonna measure well just when so I know sometimes that takes too much stock, I feel like, but yeah, we'll see what the Steelers' plan is at quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing there. And speaking of their plan at quarterback, what does this mean for Aaron Rodgers? And I think he's done in Pittsburgh, and I think he's going to retire. He's still an above-average NFL quarterback, but at this point, with no mobility, he's 42 years old. I think it's time. And a lot of teams are not going to want a 42-year-old quarterback that isn't anywhere near what he used to be. He's still decent. You saw some of his throws against the Ravens; they're still decent, but I don't think a team's going to want a 42-year-old quarterback who isn't close to what he used to be. It's not like when Brady was in free agency. It's not like when Brady was like 43 and was in free agency. Brady, when he left the Patriots, he was still at 43. He was still a top 5 quarterback. This guy's barely even a top 50. He's a top 15, a top 20 quarterback right now. So I think he's done. I think this is it. I think this is it for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is the end of him. I don't think he's going back because it did. I'm like, even you go back. I think it was after the Buffalo game. He said, "Yeah, guys gotta get in the field room." And then you saw him Monday night after he threw that pick six. Not one of those guys went over to him and kind of like comfort him. Hey, it's okay.
No. Like and he didn't even finish the game. He didn't even finish his own game. The season was over. He didn't finish the game. Yeah.
No. So I don't think he's got many friends in that locker room, it feels like, or it just seems like from being on the outside here. So I think he's done. I'm with you. Who's going to want a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers who still has some talent, but yeah, he's a middle-of-the-road quarterback, and I don't think he's going to get to the Super Bowl, at his age, or at least, So yeah, I think it's definitely the end of Aaron Rodgers. I do think he ends up hanging it up.
Yeah, I think he does. I think this is it for Rodgers. And then lastly, who's the favorite? Who's the favorite to get this job? Which coach is the favorite to get the job? And I'm hearing Chris Shula. To me, that doesn't make a ton of sense. I'm going Brian Flores. He was with the Steelers that year after he got fired from the Dolphins. He was on the Steelers staff before he got the job as the Vikings defensive coordinator. I'm going Brian Flores. He's been there. Mike McCarthy could be an option as well. He's a Pittsburgh guy, but I'm going to go Brian Flores. He's a coach with experience, and he had more success than you thought in Miami. You could argue he was better than Mike McDaniel. He had 2 winning seasons in Miami.
Oh, he absolutely was.
And then the 1 year they were supposed to tank for Tua, they were tanking for Tua, and they went 5-11. So, and they beat the Patriots in that last game. Pretty much, and it helped end the Brady year with the Patriots. So, yeah, I think Brian Flores. I would say Brian Flores. I think he should be the candidate to be the Steelers. To me, he should be the favorite to be the Steelers' next head coach.
Oh, absolutely. I think it should be Brian Flores. I've always been a huge Flores fan. I did not like how things went down in Miami. I get it, but being too hard on Tua, but sometimes you kind of need that. And I think that's what that Miami team did need, is a coach to be too hard on him, especially with the way McDaniels came in there and that locker room stuff. And, I think Flores would fit perfectly in that city. I think he'd be an excellent choice in a really tough division. I don't know. The one thing is that lawsuit's still pending, right? That's the one thing.
Yeah.
That's I near the Roonies, I'd still do it, even though you're probably not going to make Roger Goodell very happy. But who cares? Go get the best candidate. Who cares? What's the commissioner going to do?
Exactly, exactly. I would definitely hire Brian Flores if I am the Steelers. So now we got to get to divisional round weekend, and we'll start in Denver with a matchup in Denver, a rematch of last year's game between the Bills and the Broncos. And before we get into predicting this game, let's first talk about what do the Bills got to do? What do the Bills got to do to win this game? And I'll start. And number one, Josh Allen has to be Josh Allen Josh Allen's got to be Josh Allen. Josh Allen is he's got to become Josh. He's got to continue to be Josh Allen. Continue to be right now. He's the best player playing in the postseason. There's no question about it. Josh Allen is the best player in the postseason. There's no question. He's going to continue to be great, like he was last week against Jacksonville. He was awesome. That tush push at the end of the game, he was phenomenal. So Allen has to continue to be great. That's my first one. Number two, get the run game going with James Cook. Get the run game going with James Cook because they didn't last week. Alex Heroics helped them last week. They're facing a better defense this week. Denver's defense is definitely better than Jacksonville's. They got to get the run game going with James Cook. They can't be one dimensional. I feel it's very hard to be one dimensional to beat this Broncos team. And number three, don't let Bo Nix beat you with his legs. That's definitely a weapon. His legs are a weapon. He's not a great pocket passer, but he definitely could run. So don't let Bo Nix beat you with his legs. Those are my three keys to the Bills win on Saturday afternoon. What are your three keys, Justin?
Okay, someone needs to step up for Buffalo at the wide receiver spot. They have, I believe, three active wide receivers going to the game. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but he needs some guys to throw it to. Who of those three kind of step up and have a big day for Josh Allen in that offense? Number two, show up early, don't follow behind against a Denver team that can run the football really, really well, and they can play from the front. And Denver's been a great fourth quarter team, so I know the Bills have been great in comebacks too, but with the way Denver could play, be tough to do it. And then number three, finish in the red zone. So far, I think in the regular season, there were 67% it was in the red zone possessions have led to touchdowns. So finish in the red zone. You're playing a really good defense and could make a huge difference. 7 points instead of settling for three.
Definitely. Yeah, you got to finish in there, especially against this Broncos team. Yeah, you definitely have to. And you talked about the receiver position too. Shakir, one of those receivers. Yeah, Shakir did last week, but yeah, more receivers have to step up for this team. They definitely do. And it's going to be a little bit difficult because Denver plays a lot of man coverage. And Buffalo struggles against man coverage. So, but Josh Allen can get the ball in there. Josh Allen can make these receivers better. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, we'll see about that. But on the Broncos side, for me, what the Broncos got to do, get pressure on Josh Allen. Get pressure on Allen. I mean, that's a big key. That's what they've been doing all year on defense, getting pressure. So getting pressure on Allen is a key. Containing James Cook. Last year, James Cook ran the ball all over them in the playoffs. They can't let that happen again. Containing James Cook. And then Nick needs to start off the game better. There's just been a handful of times this year where the Broncos have like 7 points in the first half. That can't happen. There's a good chance you get behind a Josh Allen, you're not coming back in that game. So Bo Nix has got to start the game off better. Justin, what are your keys to a Broncos victory on Saturday?
Yeah, number one thing was Bo Nix needs to show up for 4 quarters. Yeah, because he's been unbelievable in the fourth quarter in most of these games when they've needed him to, but it's tough to win a playoff game when you struggle for 3 quarters offensively. You're not going up against the bottom tier of the league anymore, and you're going up against really good football teams. And Buffalo's a great second half football team as well. So number one, Bo Nix got to play well and got to show up for all 4 quarters. Number two is pound the football against the Bills. They're not great at stopping the run. I don't get why Liam Cohen went away from the running game last week because that was working for him. And he stuck with it. They could have definitely knocked off level last week. So, Denver pound the rock this week. And number three, be able to slow down the Bills' offense rushing attack because James Cook's one of the best backs in the sport. Try to make the Bills one-dimensional. I know it could be tough going to get up against, Josh Allen. He's really good with his legs as well, but trying to make him a little bit one-dimensional, especially with them being down so many wide receivers.
It's a really make them be one dimensional definitely. And you talk about the run game for the Broncos. It hasn't been as good since J.K. Dobbins went out. They've had one game where their running backs have rushed for over 100. I know they've had games where they've had over 100 yards rushing against the Bo Nix, but they've only had one game where their running backs have rushed for over 100 yards, and that was the Raider game. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup to see. That Bills run defense against Denver's run game. Can Denver expose that Bills run defense? Jacksonville did, but you made a good point. Liam Cohen didn't do it enough. We'll see if Sean Payton can expose that Buffalo run defense.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. And yeah, John Payton, I know will stick to the run game if it's working, and yeah, and that's kind of wants to play up in Denver, and we'll see. So if they get sick with it, and hey, you keep Josh Allen off the field too, is always a big thing to try to win a football game is keeping him on the sidelines to make sure that he can't go out there and do what he does. That's be one of the best quarterbacks in the sport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it'll keep them off the field. That's definitely a huge key for the Broncos in this game. Now, for how this game is going to go, I think it's a close, competitive game, but I think that again, Denver's going to go off to a slow start. And I think Josh Allen is going to start fast. So I think the Bills are going to get a lead. I do think Bo Nix is going to come back. He's going to do what he normally does. He's going to lead a comeback in this game, but I think this game is going to come right down to the end, and I think Josh Allen leads another game-winning drive. And I got the Bills returning to the AFC Championship game and getting to their third AFC title game in 6 years. I got the Bills knocking out the Broncos 23-20. But Justin, can the Broncos get revenge from what happened last year in the postseason and get to their first conference championship game in a decade?
I got the Bills as well here, 23-21. It's tough to take Bo Nix over Josh Allen, and I know Denver's got the better overall team. I'm not sure what Bo Nix shows up. I think Josh Allen, even with all the wide receivers heads out, still plays well enough. I think he's still able to improvise. They do enough. The rushing game does enough in this one. And I do think the Bills get it done here. And I think, if Josh Allen continues to kind of be Superman this week and Buffalo goes back to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. So you brought up, Bo Nix and Josh Allen. That's the biggest difference. It's the biggest difference in this game. The Broncos. That's the advantage the Broncos don't have, and obviously they don't have because it's a major advantage for the Bills because obviously the Broncos have the coaching advantage with Sean McDermott against Sean Payton. But the Broncos roster is definitely better. But the quarterback play is the difference. And you got one guy who's managed games, but and is turned it on in the fourth quarter against a guy who is the second best player, in my opinion, the second best player in the NFL and the best player in the postseason, Josh Allen. So I do agree with you that Josh Allen makes a difference in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. And you saw last week where he downed so many guys. And again, I kind of said last week, like Jacksonville outside of like quarterback or running back, I'd take him in all other position groups. And but Josh Allen kind of can minimize all that. And he did last week. And yeah, he could do it again against Bo Nix and this Denver team that it's really, really good. But yeah, and going up to Denver too, like Josh Allen just if he's on it, he can be on a different level, and you saw it last week, and I think it continues. Now he took a lot of big shots. I know he's banged up, and I know he's gonna play, but man, how many more shots could he take too? Because
I know.
I know they won't say it, but he's hurt.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. But a lot of guys are playing hurt. Stafford's playing hurt. A lot of guys are playing hurt in the postseason. So I still expect him to play really well, and I expect him to lead the Bills back to the AFC Championship game. I do. I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl at the start of the year, and this is their opportunity. This is the Bills' opportunity without Mahomes and without Lamar in this postseason. This is a huge opportunity for the Bills to at least get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We've been saying it pretty much since the Chiefs got eliminated, pretty much since the Ravens got knocked out. Like, this is the year for Josh Allen. Like, if it's not this year, when? So, yeah, this is the year. They're gonna have to do it on the road, of course, and this is the year to get it done, and especially with the AFC kind of with all the top quarterbacks that are usually in it didn't even make the postseason this year.
Absolutely. So we will move on to the Saturday night game between the Niners and the Seahawks. And this is probably expected to be the most lopsided game, but we'll get to breaking down the game in a minute. Well, first we'll talk about what each team has to do. And we'll start with the Niners. And number one, CMC has got to be amazing because CMC was not. CMC was pretty much shut down in the Week 18 matchup between these two teams. So CMC has got to be great. He has got to have pretty much the game of his life to open up play action for Brock Purdy. He's got to have a great game. Now, it's going to be hard against a very good run defense in Seattle and a very good defense overall in Seattle. I mean, Seattle is clearly a top 3 defense in the league. So it's going to be hard, but CMC he's got to be great. Number 2, they got to get pressure on Darnold, somehow get pressure on Darnold and force him to make mistakes. They got to get pressure because they're not the way they're going to win this game is they're going to force Darnold to make mistakes. That's how they're going to win this game. So they got to get pressure on Darnold and force him to make mistakes. And number 3, Purdy's got to protect the ball. He had 2 bad. He came back and won the game against the Eagles, but he had 2 bad picks this week. If he throws 2 picks, there's no way he's going to win because Seattle's got a better defense and they got a better offense than the Eagles. So if he throws a couple picks this week, there's no way they're going to win. So my 3 are CMC's got to be great, got to get pressure on Darnold, and Purdy needs to protect the ball. What are your 3 keys to a Niners victory on Saturday night, Justin?
For me, for the Niners, is slow down the Seattle rushing attack. When they met in week 18, Seattle ran for 180 yards and over 4 yards to carry. So they can't allow to do that. They can't allow Seattle to do that again. Number 2, get pressure on Sam Darnold. We know he could kind of struggle when you can get some pressure on him. Maybe that forces a turnover too. My last one is design plays to get the ball out of Purdy's hands quickly to try to neutralize that Seattle pass rush. And just with all the injuries you have up front at the receiver core, just Shanahan, I do expect, he had an amazing game plan last week, and I expect it to be again. But hopefully it's kind of trying to get the ball out quickly, trying to get a couple of those receivers kind of out in space.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. They got to get the ball out of his hands quick because if Seattle's pressure is going to get there like it did in the Week 18 matchup, it could be a very, very long day for the 49ers offense. Now, getting to what Seattle has to do to win this game, first they got to do what they did in Week 18. They didn't even contain McCaffrey in that Week 18 game. They shut down McCaffrey in that game. So if they continue to do what they did with Christian McCaffrey, because he only averaged 2.9 yards a carry in that Week 18 game. So if they continue to do what they do with him, they're going to be in really good shape. Darnold needs to protect the ball. Darnold has to protect the ball. I mean, if Darnold turns the ball, the only way I feel like Seattle could lose is really if Darnold has a terrible game and turns the ball over. If he doesn't, Seattle has a really good chance of winning. Seeing all the Niners injuries, seeing that Kittle's not going to play, seeing that Warner, there's a chance he somehow might play, but I don't think he's going to. So seeing all the injuries the Niners have, the Seahawks clearly have the better team. So Darnold just has to be able to protect the ball. That's really key. And he's had some trouble doing it this year. Remember a 4-pick game against the Rams. So Darnold's got to protect the ball. And then you mentioned it with San Francisco stopping the run. One of my keys for Seattle is just run the ball like they did the last time. Ran for 171 yards. 171 yards against the San Francisco defense, which still has a ton of injuries on it. I mean, they were playing 5th or 6th string linebackers against the Eagles. So I think 3 things for me: contain CMT, Darnold's got to protect the ball, and run the football. Justin, what are your keys for Seattle to win on Saturday night?
Yeah, for me, my first one, with same one too with Sam Darnold here is protect the football. You did that rain game. He had 4 interceptions. They had the second most turnovers in the sport this year, and I know that he's not to blame for all of them. And that defense is so good, but Sam, they turn the ball over. This is kind of the way. I agree with you. Like if they turn the ball over 2-3 times, I think that's they really big chance that the Niners have to win this football game. My second one too is Christian McCaffrey related. Make sure he's not the reason yet you lose this football game. We know how he's one of the best players in sport. As a receiving back, and even could have some big carries. You mentioned they did show him down, and they're gonna have to do that again this week to win this football game. And number 3 is force Purdy to make a turnover too. I think he's 0-3 I saw all time when he turns the ball over at least 2 or more times. So that with all the injuries the Niners have, make that kind of defense. Hopefully, if Seattle can get a couple short fields, turn Purdy over, they'd be in great shape at home.
I think it's more than 2 times because he turned the ball over twice last week and they won.
Okay, yeah. So all right, so so maybe he's like 1-3 now. But like his numbers have not been great when he turns the ball over a couple times, and I guess it makes sense. When you turn the ball over, it's harder to win football games.
Without question. Now getting into the game, I think this is going to be the most lopsided game of the weekend. I think San Francisco will compete early on, but I think eventually the running game of Seattle is going to be too much. I think they'll run for over 100 yards again. I think Darnold's going to protect the ball and throw a couple touchdown passes, and I think this defense is going to contain CMC, and they're going to force some turnovers from Brock Purdy. I think it'll be close and competitive for a half, but I think Seattle pulls away in the second half, And that's why I got Seattle winning this game 27-17 over the Niners. But Justin, as we know, Kyle Shanahan, 4-0, 4-0 in the divisional round. Does he go to 5-0 and do the Niners get to their 5th conference championship game in 7 years?
No, I got Seattle here as well, 24-13. I think it's a tough spot for the Niners. It's a short week with travel, back-to-back weeks, and you didn't get off the field till Sunday evening. Look, Salah had a great game plan last week defensively. Shanahan had a great plan offensively. I think they have really good game plans, but we just saw this kind of game a couple weeks ago. And San Fran really couldn't do much of anything on offense, and I think it's kind of the same thing. And in Seattle in that game too, should have scored a couple more touchdowns. They settled for some field goals in that one, so to keep it close. And I think Seattle this time around kind of capitalizes, gets a couple set of kicking field goals, gets a couple more touchdowns. So I think it's a game where Sam Darnold plays well enough. The rushing geek tackle does well, and I just think the Niners, with all their injuries, this is a week. This is I just don't think they're able to go up to Seattle and knock them off with all the injuries.
Yeah, and you made a really good really good point about the 49ers. Yeah, the league didn't do them any favors. The league didn't do them any favors because they could have had Chicago, and it wasn't like the AFC where they had to have the Patriots and Texans play Sunday.
Yeah,
the league did not do the Niners any favors having them turn around and have to play Saturday, and then have two teams that played Saturday then play Sunday. I think they want for the 6:30 spot they want the ratings with LA and Chicago. I think that's the big spot. That's why I think they want the ratings. So that's why I think they did it the way they did it. But yeah, the league did not do the Niners any favors having them have to play the Sunday afternoon game. And they were in Philadelphia, so they had to fly. Now they got to fly across the country and then play Seattle on a short week. So the league did not do them any favors. That was a great point. That's why the fatigue could cause the Niners to struggle on Saturday night. I mean,
yeah, it definitely could. Yeah, it definitely could. Yeah, because it definitely ratings play. Because I don't know if you heard, but if the Steelers won, the Patriots would have been the Sunday night game. They would have been 6:30. So it was definitely ratings play of why kind of they wanted Chicago, like kind of that Sunday night spot, or New England, Pittsburgh did happen. So yeah, it's such a tough spot, and I just think with all the injuries too, and the Niners have put a great game plan together, but yeah, Seattle with the 2 weeks off, I just think it's such an advantage for Seattle, and I think Seattle's won 10 straight home playoff games up there, not counting with fans, not counting the year that they lost, during COVID.
The 2020 year, not counting 2020,
yeah.
They're great at home in the playoffs. Seattle's here's the thing about Seattle: when they've had the number one seed, they've gotten to the Super Bowl. 2005 they got to the Super Bowl. 2013 they got to the Super Bowl, and we know very well 2014 they got to the Super Bowl as well when they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So they've won a bunch of home games. I think won a home game in 2016. So yeah, they've won 10. They're great at home. Seattle, when they've had fans, they didn't have fans in that Rams playoff game in 2020. But when they've had fans, they've been great at home, and I expect the same on Saturday night. And I expect them to advance to the conference championship game and beat the 49ers. But we will move on to the Patriots, and Justin's got a shirt on today. We got the Texans and Patriots. Here's the interesting part of this matchup: the two coaches played for both teams. And played the same position for both teams. Both these coaches were linebackers for DeMeco Ryans was a linebacker for those Texans, in the mid 2000s, early 2010s, and then Mike Vrabel, as we all know, was a linebacker for the Patriots and was on 3 of their Super Bowl championship teams. So it'll be an interesting matchup between the two teams. Justin, because you got the Patriots shirt on, we'll start with the Patriots. You got the shirt on, so I'll start with you. What do your Patriots got to do to advance their first conference championship game since 2018?
First, I think it's a very obvious one is protect Drake May. They have no chance the offensive line played as bad as they did last week, and the Chargers pass rush is good, but I think this week you're leveling up to an even better team in Houston. So this is gonna be even a tougher matchup, and if May's not protected, I think it could be a long day for the Patriots offense yet again. Number 2 is forced turnover too, because it's going to be tough to have a long, sustained drive against this defense. So if your defense can help you out, get a short field, or even kind of special teams play, take advantage of it because there's such great defense. And number 3, be able to mix up the play calling on offense and keep those pass rushers kind of guessing whether or not you're passing or running, and passing or running, and staying on time too. Staying ahead of the chains as well, and making it third and manageable so that those pass rushers can't really tee off on you.
Yeah, mine is the same one. Protect Drake May. That is a huge key because on Sunday the their offensive line didn't play. I didn't think the offensive line didn't play well on Sunday. Yeah, May wasn't great, but he was okay. But he made some big throws. May made some big plays in that game. The run before the half, the big run he had before that, the 3rd and 13 he converted on when the Patriots were backed up in their own end, and then the touchdown pass to Henry. So May didn't have a great game, but the offensive line wasn't good. Especially Jared Wilson struggled, Bradbury struggled, even Will Campbell. The reason they turned the ball over is because Orway beat Will Campbell there. Will Campbell got beat on that play. So yeah, the protecting Drake May is imperative. It's imperative in this game that they listen. There's times they're a great pass rush. Anderson and Hunter are great, so they're going to get there. It just can't be. They can't wreck the game. They got to make sure McDaniel's got to get the ball out of his hands quick. Got to get the ball out of him. And I think I'm confident Josh is going to come up with a game plan that's going to help Drake May because he's a great offensive coordinator. So yeah, I think protecting Drake May is number one. Number two, what could help the protection is get the run game going. Get the run game going with Henderson and Stevenson. Stevenson had a pretty good game last week, especially in the screen game. When you guys, when the Chargers went for it, he had that huge screen to set things up to lead to, and that led to a field goal. So get the screen game going, get the run game going. And then May's got to protect the ball. He had a bad turnover last week. Turned the ball over twice. One really bad turnover in your own end. Luckily, the defense came up big and they stopped them. But yeah, May's got to protect the ball. So my three are protect Drake May, get the run game going. Protect Drake May, get the run game going, and May's got to protect the football.
Yeah, those are big keys for the Patriots because if May's not protected, May throws another bad turnover too. I know the Texans' offense isn't great and Stroud hasn't played great, but I expect they're a little bit more healthy than the Chargers are up front. So, I don't know if you're gonna get bailed out again if you give them the ball at the 7-yard line and in a goal line situation. So, protecting May is gonna be huge.
And we got a comment from Hector here. Quarterback play could be a key storyline. Stroud has performed well in the postseason. He has, but has had difficulties in the divisional round setting. And Drake May is making his first career start. Putting both young quarterbacks under significant pressure. I like the Patriots in a close game. So, yeah, Hector does. We'll give our picks later. But the quarterback thing is Stroud has won 3 playoff games now. 3 playoff games now. He hasn't played. He didn't play great last week. The defense was a bigger reason why they won the game than he did, and the run game were a bigger reason why he did. I mean, he turned the ball over twice. He fumbled the ball 5 times. So he wasn't great, but he has had success. He's won 2. He played well in 2 of those, playoff wins. The game against the Browns his rookie year, and then against the Chargers, he's played well. Divisional round, he has struggled. He struggled against the Ravens. He struggled against the Chiefs last year. So, yeah, the divisional round he's definitely struggled in. So I'll give Hector that. But, yeah, he's right about the quarterback play. He definitely is going into this game.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. Because you got 2 young quarterbacks, and maybe he can, only second start. Stroud's only had he's only had 3 starts, and that both defenses are solid. Obviously, the Texans defense is on a totally different level than the Patriots defense are, but Patriots defense is still solid enough where they'll give Stroud problems, and it could really come down to what quarterback protects the football more in this game. So absolutely, the Hector's definitely right.
Yeah, so we'll now go to the Texans. So speaking of CJ Stroud, we'll go to the Texans, and the first thing with the Texans, first key to the Texans winning is, and it's so obvious, get pressure on Drake May. It's been their bread and butter all year with Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and Sheldon Rankins. Get pressure on the quarterback. It's been their bread and butter. It's why they have the best defense, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL. Get pressure on Drake May, force him to make mistakes. And number 2, we've just talked about CJ Stroud. Stroud has got to protect the ball. He's not going to get away with fumbling 5 times. He's not going to get away with turning that awful. He turned the ball over 3 times against the Steelers. He had that terrible interception to start the second half. He cannot turn the ball over against this Patriot team because he's facing at this point a much better quarterback in Drake May and a much better offense in the Patriots than he faced last week. So he cannot get away with turning the ball over in this game. He just can't. He just can't get away with that. And then number 3, don't give up explosive plays. Drake May is the best deep ball thrower in the league. He's the best deep ball thrower in the league. You can't give up explosive plays in this Patriot offense, or it's going to be a very tough game to win for the Texans. Justin, what are your keys to the Texans getting a win on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, for me, I've won as well with Stroud has to protect the football because the defense kind of bailed them out last week on a couple of them on the 2 turnovers. And he luckily a couple of those fumbles he was able to recover himself. But if they turn the ball over a couple of times like they did, help out the Patriots. You mentioned it's a good Patriot offense. It's not as bad as Pittsburgh's offense it was last week, and could kind of make you pay for it a bit. And Number two is Houston's pass rush is the reason is a big is a big reason why they can win this football game. We saw it last week. We mentioned it. The offensive line for the Patriots really struggled against the Chargers, and this is, I think, a totally different animal that you're going to see this week in Houston. And they've been right there with Denver as in Seattle is one of the best pass rushers in the sport. So if they can get Patrick going, be huge. And number three is be balanced on offense. They ran the ball really well last week, and I thought that towards the end of the year, that rushing attack for Houston really started to get themselves going, and they can be balanced attack. We've seen at times this year where the Patriots. It helps now that Robert Spillane's back, but we still in Milt Williams, we've still seen the Patriots give up some yards on the ground. So, kind of be able to have a balanced attack this week.
Yeah, I think I think the Patriots will be fine stopping the run. I think they will be. But the concern for the Patriots, and there's also a concern for the Texans, is two key players are in concussion protocol for both teams. You got Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots, and you got Nico Collins for the Texans. The question is if both miss the game, which player would be a bigger loss, Nico Collins or Christian Gonzalez? I'm going to say Nico Collins. I'm going to say Nico Collins because Nico Collins isn't in. The Texans pass game is not good at all. He's by far their best receiver. He's by far their best pass catcher. Their second best pass catcher is probably Dalton Schultz. So if Nico Collins is out, I think that's a bigger loss. The Patriots, they could get pressure. They could stop the run. So but even though Gonzalez would be a big loss, I would definitely say that that losing Collins would be a bigger loss because if they don't have Collins, Vrabel and Kerr are going to play man coverage against those Texans receivers. They're going to play man coverage. They're going to play man coverage. It's going to be harder for CJ Stroud. So I would say Nico Collins would be the bigger loss if he can't play more than Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Nico Collins is a bigger loss because abilities make big plays, and you're going to need the wide receiver now to kind of step up and fill the shoes there. And according to Mike Reese, Christian Gonzalez is practicing today without a non-red, no longer in a red non-cock jersey, and it did grab his helmet. So I assume he's passed, or they're pretty so I assume he's already passed. If that's all, if he's not even had a non-contact jersey, so he should be good to go. But yeah, if Nico Collins can go, which I don't with the short week, and he have crossed two a couple weeks ago.
I think so. Yeah,
I can't imagine he's going to pass in time. So yeah, I think even for some reason Gonzalez can't go, I still think Collins is a bigger loss. Because he's Stroud's kind of one of his favorite weapons. And he's had a really big year.
He definitely has. Now getting into this game. Let's get into this game. I'll start. And I think this is a close competitive game. But I think the difference in this game is going to be the quarterback. I think Drake May makes less mistakes than CJ Stroud. And I think the Patriots are going to be able to run the ball a little bit more. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better. I think the game's going to be low scoring, very low scoring game, in the teens, high 20s, mid-teens, high 20s, low scoring game. But I think it's going to come down to the Patriots defense making a play at the end. And I think they make that play against CJ Stroud. I think they're winning the game late. I think this Patriots defense makes the play against CJ Stroud. And I'm going to go with the Pats to get to their first AFC Championship games in 2018. I got the Patriots winning over the Texans 20-16. But Justin, do you agree with me? Can the Patriots get to their first AFC title game since 2018?
Well, obviously, I hope I'm wrong, but I have Texans 16-13.
Wow, I'm going with Houston.
I just think that the Houston's defense is the best unit on the football field on Sunday. Part of me wasn't sure at the time that Gonzalez was going to play. I feel a lot better. I feel better now that Gonzalez is going to play because he was awesome last week. But I just worry that this offense is struggle even more than it did last week without Drake May in there. With this Texans offense or defensive line that they're going to have to go up against, and I think it's going to be a real problem this week. And I do think May's going to turn the football over a couple of times. And yeah, I do think the Texans offense just does enough to win this game, and I think they get a short field or two. So I just think the Houston defense is the reason why they win this football game again. I just think they take it over, and I think they sack Drake May like 4 or 5 times this week.
Yeah, so you just don't think the offensive line is going to have a good game. You don't think because it's been better. It's been a lot better this year with the additions of Moses.
Oh yeah,
it's been better, but still, you saw last week there's still leakage on that offensive line.
Yeah, and again, I really do think that this is this is a step above what you saw last week, and we kind of saw what the Chargers did, and they really showed against the Chargers. And now you're going up against two of the best, Will Anderson and Darnell Hunter. I just think this could be a really long afternoon for the Patriots off the line, and I think it'd be a long afternoon for May. And I think offensive linemen are picking himself up a couple times. So now, if the defense can force a Stroud turnover and get after him, and I think they'll be able to get some pressure on Stroud. I just think that Texas defensive line is going to get even more on Drake May. And I just think it's going to be like last year where he's got to get rid of the football in a second, or there's going to be four guys in his face.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, but again, a big key to this game is Josh McDaniels getting the ball out of his hands quick. If Josh McDaniels can do that and they can have success, they'll have success. But yeah, if they're not able to, like I said, they're not able to run the ball, it could be a long day for that offense. I just feel the quarterbacks. I think the quarterbacks are the difference. I think Drake May is clearly better than C.J. Stroud, and that's why. And I mean, both rosters are pretty even. Coaching, I give the Patriots a slight edge, but I think Drake May, or maybe the Texans have a little bit of a better roster, but I think Drake May over C.J. Stroud, and with the Pats being at home, I know they struggled early in the year at home, but they've been a lot better at home since the first couple of games. I think that gives them the slight edge in this game.
Yeah, I think Drake May definitely better than Caesar Stroud. Be the difference in this game. But for me, I just think the Texans are able to kind of neutralize that. I think Matt Collins too is a bigger loss than I think I think is kind of out there with the Patriots. I do because he can kind of be a big kind of deep ball threat at times this year. I do think he's kind of, I do think the Patriots do miss him. I think that this is a game where they could miss him too, because I think it's gonna be tough to drive the field on Houston, and like, can Kyle Williams be able to hit that? Kyle Williams has had his kind of moments. Can he hit on a big play this week down the field? And yeah, Drake May is such a great downfield passer. Can they hit one or two of those this week? Because I don't know if they're gonna have many sustained drives this week against Houston's defense.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Interesting game between the Texans and Pats in the divisional round. We'll wrap up with the last game on Sunday night, and that's between the Rams and the Bears. And the weather is going to be a factor. It's going to be freezing. It's going to be windy in that game. It's going to be really, really windy. So we'll get to what the Rams got to do to win the game, and I'll start. And I think the number one thing the Rams got to do is they gotta get the run game going. Kyron Williams got to have a big game because Stafford's banged up. He struggles in cold weather. The less Stafford's a top quarterback, but the less he has to do in a windy game, the better. The run game is going to be so key for both teams in this game. It really is. But the less Stafford has to do in a big game, the better. So in this kind of game, the better. So I think the run game going is a huge key. Number two, contain their run game. That's the bread and butter of the Chicago Bears offense. Ben Johnson's been their run game. Contain their run game. So that's definitely something with contain their run guy and Swift and Monangai. So that's definitely something they're going to have to do. And then to me, number three, get pressure on Williams. Get pressure on Caleb Williams. Force Caleb Williams to make mistakes. He was not great in the first half last week. Some of that was caused by his head coach going for it in ridiculous situations, but he was not great in the first half last week, and he really hasn't been great in first half throughout the season. Where he gets good is in the second half of games. So if they can get pressure on Williams and force him to turn the ball over, that would definitely increase the Rams' chance of winning, of getting back to the NFC Championship game. Justin, what do the Rams got to do to get to the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, for the Rams, Stafford's got to play better than the Colts. Since joining the Rams, he's 1-2 in games under 20 degrees, and his complete percentage is barely over 50%. So he's got to play better than the Colts this week. And the coldest game the Rams have played in all year is 45 degrees. So I know the Bears aren't used to playing in something this cold, but the Rams too. This is gonna be a totally different challenge for them. Number two of the Rams is late in games this year. They've found ways to lose some of these games. For whatever reason, the defense, the special teams, the turnover. We've seen the Bears find opportune ways to win these football games. You got to be sharp in this fourth quarter because the Bears have been the team of destiny, and they just find ways to win these football games. So you can't be the team. You just can't find a way to lose a football game. So that's number two for me. And number three for me, this is more McVay. Stop throwing the ball on 3rd and 1. It's brutal to watch. You're not fooling anybody at this point. And for such a great offensive mind, just run the football. You're not adept at running the football. You have a good running game. Start running the football.
Exactly, and you saw him go for him 4th and 3 when he should have kicked the field goal against the last week. So that's a good point. Yeah. When you're in that situation, you definitely have to run the ball. Now, getting to what the Bears got to do to win the game. First, for me, they got to get their run game going. The bread and butter of their team. Get the run game going with Smith and Swift and Monungai. Get that ground game going. Help Caleb Williams out there. Get that run game going. Number two, help them in protection. Protect them. Don't let this Rams pass rush take over the game because they got a really good pass rush. The Bears have a really good offensive line. The Rams have a really good pass rush. So don't let this Rams, pass rush take over the game. And number three, what they've been doing all year, force turnovers. Force turnover. That's what this defense has given up a lot of yards, but they've been able to force turnovers. That's been the big thing with the Bears this year. They've been able to force turnovers with this. So that's got to be a huge key moving forward in the playoffs. They got to start doing that if they're going to overcome their lack of talent on defense. So they've done it for most of the year, being able to force turnovers. But that's a huge key for the Bears in this game. Justin, what are your keys for the Bears to get to the conference championship game?
For me, the Bears play the first 45 minutes. All these, I think it's 8 win now in the final 2 minutes. Like, it just can't. It can't. That's not sustainable. It's a look. Congrats to them. They keep finding ways to win these football games, and it's impressive. But at some point, you got to play the first 45 minutes of a football game. So that's number one. Number two is take advantage of Rams defense, especially the holes that they've kind of given up in the secondary the last couple of weeks. Can Moore have another big game? Can Colson Loveland? He had a big game last week. Could a couple of these Bears receivers hit on a couple of big plays here? Which could be big in this football game. And number three, be effective on the ground because with the cold, could come down to what team runs the football better. So be the one with Manum guy, and them, and be able to kind of run the football a little bit better than the Rams can.
Yeah, that's going to be the key to this game. The expected weather is 28-mile-an-hour winds. The team that runs the ball is probably going to win this game. So, running the football is crucial. It is crucial in this football game. Whatever team runs the football better. But now predicting this game, I think both teams will run the. I think that the reason why the Rams do get to the conference championship game is I think they run the football better. I think the Rams run the ball with Kyren Williams. Stafford throws a couple touchdown passes. I do think that that Caleb Williams moves the ball, but I do think they maybe miss an extra point or a field goal. They turn the ball over once or twice. I think Stafford makes less mistakes than Caleb Williams, and that's why I'm going Rams here. I'm going Rams 24-19 to get to the NFC Championship game and play the Seahawks. I got the Rams 24-19 over the Bears. But Justin, can Caleb Williams lead the Bears to their first conference title game in 15 years?
I do have Chicago 24-21 in this one.
Wow.
Yeah, you just mentioned
Bears.
the win. Yeah, I'm gonna go Bears because this is why. You just mentioned the win. The Rams special team's been a disaster all year. The kicking game has not been great. This is a game where the wind, where it could play a factor in this football game. I know the Bears kicking game too could be a little suspect as well, but I think I think the special team's a little bit better than LA's is, and they're used to playing more in the elements, and also too, I hate dome football games too. So I know the Bears might be building a dome. This is what January football is supposed to be: is the cold. And
you like the cold. You like watching the old Patriot highlights of the 2000s. You like watching those Patriot playoff games in the cold.
The Snow Bowl against the Raiders. The tuck game, the tuck rule game. Like I like watching that. I don't like domes. I don't like dome football games. So, I enjoy. So, don't build a dome, Chicago. Please don't. So I enjoy it, and the weather should play a factor in football games, and I think it really could in this one. And I think Caleb Williams plays well enough. I think the Bears continue to just find ways to win games like they have, and I think the Rams have a costly turnover late, costly missed kick, and the reason why Chicago wins this football game.
Oh wow, you're going. Yeah, and you brought it up too. Special teams have been an issue with the Rams all year. The Philadelphia game, they had a blocked field goal that cost them the game. They missed the field goal. They missed a couple field goals in that. They missed a field goal late in that Seattle game, cost them that game. And it could have cost them last week with that blocked punt. It almost cost them that game.
Yeah, it did. So yeah, there's been times this year where LA's special teams let them down, and that's kind of the one. Till the last couple of weeks, said Gary, it's kind of been a little bit more of a weakness. But like for most of the year, their special teams was like the one weakness of this football team. So yeah, and again in this weather, it could play a big factor. More than the factor that that most weeks the special team kind of plays in the game. So yeah, special team doesn't handle it well, and a couple missed kicks, a blocked field goal here or there, definitely could change momentum of the football game.
Absolutely, definitely does. It absolutely does. So it should be a great divisional round weekend of football. I think we're gonna have 4 really good games. We had we had 4 really good games last week. We started the wild card weekend. The last 2 weren't as good, but we had 4 really good games last week. So it should be a really, really exciting weekend of football this weekend. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with RJ. But we'll be back in about 20 minutes talking about previewing the national championship game, and talking about Dante Moore, and talking about UConn basketball's win over Seton Hall and their upcoming game against Georgetown. So make sure you tune in for